Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you our weekly local marketing industry update. Now, this week we've got a great week, quite a few different things to talk about this week. The last couple of weeks have been a little bit dry, so it's kind of, after doing this for multiple years, that seems to be how it's worked out in the local world. We'll have a couple of weeks where there's no real changes, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's quite a bit of information and updates. So I'm going to try to get through this stuff fairly quickly. But just this week as an overview, quick little overview, we're going to be talking about Google testing new location answer boxes and exactly what that is. Some additional discussion on Matt Cutts regarding article marketing and article directories, and I want to decipher some of that. Studies come out. How much information is in the SERP? When I say SERP, that's S-E-R-P, or Search Engine Results Page. So when we're seeing a variety of different search, what types of content is found in those searches and the breakdown for that. Some additional information on Matt Cutts and regarding social signals from some of the different social networks out there. Another survey that's come out by Moz and some of the best and the top SEO tools that are out there from different experts that they've interviewed. And finally, Matt Cutts finally comes out and explains why older sites and some older sites aren't just keeping their current rankings. Now, for LMS members, if you haven't been into the LMS member Facebook group lately, definitely get yourself in there and check it out. Again, it's been very, very busy lately. Some really good discussion. Let's see who we've got on the line here right now. Okay, nobody that's in discussion seems to be on the line, but Tyler has a great discussion, probably 10 or 12 or 15 different posts about different merchant options and payment processors for a local internet marketing agency. Scott Meadows talks about different questions. He apologized for having a newbie question, and it's not, but that's getting what are called site links on the SERPs. Eve opened up a really good discussion on new client implementation and some of the things that we do for clients right off the bat in the first month. Forrest is talking about different hosting questions and help. So in other words, if you haven't been in there, get yourself in there. There's some really, really good discussions in regards to that. I can see some other people that are just coming on the line right now as well. Welcome. No, I'm not going to point you out. But on that note, let's get into the weekly update this week. As I first mentioned, Google is testing location answer boxes. Now, one thing we've noticed with Google is, well, first off, I find it very, very ironic that Google is a website that doesn't promote or condone other pages on the internet that are full of links and don't have valuable content. Well, that's all a SERP really is. And so how valuable really is a SERP? Well, over the years, Google has begun to show more and more information to become that destination site. In the local world, Google, for example, would start showing a variety of different reviews from different sites that are out there, and they don't want that. Why would Yelp want Google to scrape the data and information off of Yelp's site so Google can display it on their website? And Google has stopped that. Facebook has stopped that. Twitter did that for quite some time. But it doesn't stop Google from scraping websites, for example, doing a simple query or a search and getting data from Wikipedia. I know that all sports scores, you just type in or say the name of the sports team that may be playing or you want to talk about, and they will tell you the update or the next time that they play. Or you can type in weather for zip code area, and then Google will tell you that weather right there. brand searches under Penguin, for example. Google is showing the information right there. So this we could talk about as an answer box, and Google is now testing showing that answer box for geolocation searches. In other words, if you did a search and it's only being found, I was able to reproduce it on Firefox, not on Chrome, not on Safari. So we're seeing some tests. Other people are reporting that they're not able to replicate the test of it. So, you know, we're not too sure of how widespread Google's testing is on this. But it's teaching us a few different things about local. So, for example, what was the search here? Dress barn locations, Amherst. Dress barn being a local business. Amherst being a location, and you're looking for location information. So it's a fairly specific question. And Google will show the one box at the top of the search, then show an organic blended result, where that's an organic listing with a local result inside of it. And then on the right hand side, they'll show some of their brand information. But if you did the same search and didn't put a location in and just said, you know, show me the locations, you're getting the 7-pack that shows up. That was able to be reproduced by similar types of searches. You know, if you're doing car dealers, like a brand search for, say, Avis, Avis locations in Chicago, you'll be able to get that. But if there's only one business in a particular market, you're going to get the one box. If there's multiple locations, you're going to get the 3-pack or the 7-pack. Now, this is Google continuing to move towards and training us as searchers to get used to certain information, and it's big and it's bold. It is so much more prominent than the top listing. It's likely going to have a very high click-through rate, and very likely that it's going to influence the experience, the search experience. So I want to keep an eye on that. Ultimately, that's not going to change any strategy. That seems to be driven by Google's Hummingbird update, which is affects brands. We've talked about how to influence your brand authority on Google. Again, it's just following old school principles that your brand goes everywhere. You know, in the old school days, you would put your logo on your brochures, on your shirts, on your hats, on your vehicles, everywhere you possibly could, and that would increase brand awareness. Well, it is no different on the internet. We work in the same concept of citation exposure and whatnot. Creating brand authority on the internet is getting the authoritative exposure that's out there. So if you're doing all the right things in SEO to begin with, you are beginning to create and establishing that brand authority, and that ultimately is what's going to drive this one box. Now, there's no studies on that at this point in time, but that's likely what's driving it. Now, Matt Cutts has come out and said, now remember, we're 2014 right now, and he says, don't try and build links through article directories. You know, I remember the day, and I still have video in the LMS portal that talks about article marketing. And this is getting articles created based off of a keyword and distributing that article to a variety of different article sites that are out there. There was a point in time that we could go and buy articles for half a cent a word or $2–3 an article from writers overseas just by giving them a single keyword and then distributing that to hundreds of different article sites and getting thousands of links. And that was the #1 SEO strategy that we deployed for quite some time. Well, and I can't say quite some time because real quickly, after me deploying it within months, I pulled all my writers from overseas and changed the amount of money that I spent on the writers to get them locally to create higher quality content. I recognize that if you didn't have English as your first language and you weren't in a particular culture, you know, if you're writing for an American company, you need an American writer. If you're Canadian company, you need a Canadian writer. There's just certain elements of culture that we picked up real quickly. Then it also learned that the automation just made no sense. That you're creating content and distributing it to 100 different sites where your audience really isn't going to reside anyhow. And so we pulled back on all of that. And so now with our quote-unquote article marketing strategies, which we still deploy, even though what I'm talking about right now, Matt Cutt says don't try and build links through article directories. Well, you take an article directory like eZine, and a lot of companies, a lot of websites pull content from eZine. They've gone through a lot of scrutiny over the last 3 years to ensure that the content on their site is of high quality and of high quality writers. It is a lot harder these days to get content published on eZine than it was 2 years ago, or even a year ago, and the scrutiny that goes through all of that. So, is article marketing bad? Is it something that we shouldn't be deploying? Well, the whole idea of creating an article, for example, off of a keyword is pretty much the same thing as creating content based off of a theme. And if I'm creating content, so let's say for a plumber, off of a theme of plumbing with geo content, let's say Chicago, and we're dealing with these cold ass temperatures, what a company should be doing if the water pipes break. And that's very relevant information. I was just volunteering at a animal shelter a couple of days ago because my daughter wasn't at school and she wanted to spend some time, and we were inside because school was closed because it was so cold, and the animal shelter is dealing with burst pipes. So it's a pretty relevant piece of content, and if that plumber created that content and got it published on the local Chamber of Commerce and maybe the local newspaper, isn't that authoritative exposure that the local newspaper is profiling you as an expert, a local expert in regards to some of the problems that are being solved and helping people? Well, of course. Isn't that article marketing? It absolutely is. So this whole idea that Matt Cutt goes out there and says, don't try and build links through article directories because it's dead. Well, yeah, we've known that for a long time, and what a lot of people are doing out there is just creating shitty content and getting it distributed to irrelevant places. Well, that doesn't follow marketing principles. Marketing principles is about creating content that has value for your audience, your prospective audience, your target audience, your segmented target audience that has value to them, and putting that content in areas that they are going to read. People are reading the local newspapers. The local chamber has got distribution channels from a local aspect. So getting it out into some article directory that's residing in Sweden somewhere, yeah, Google's not going to give you credit for that. But when you follow the marketing principles and deploy article marketing with strategy, you're going to get credit from it. All right, so a study. We're talking about the study of the SERPs here, search engine results page, and 34% of all Google search results have rich media embedded into the front page of the SERP. 1/3 of the content is rich media, and rich media could be images or videos or news. Now, of that 34%, 24% of that are images. So what does that tell us? Well, one strategy we teach at Local Marketing Source is the advent use of infographics. Well, infographics are images. There are marketing elements to creating effective infographics, but these are graphics that if they get shared on the social networks, they're going to show up in the SERPs. When they show up in the SERPs, when people are going through their research phase, this is information that they're going to see. Well, what were we just talking about, and what was Penguin all about? Was brand searches and creating brand awareness and getting that exposure. Well, that means your images are going to help with brand exposure, and having your logo on that brand, or sorry, on that image, is going to further instill that. Well, what are you going to do with the alt tag? Or where am I going with this? How are you going to tell Google that that image is your brand? That's where you tag it in the alt field of the image, utilizing best practices. And when we talk about getting keywords in there, you obviously want the company name within your images and your geolocation, and of course the relevancy of your theme. And that's how we tag our images. Video is the exact same concept, and video is a part of that 24%. Now 9% of searches are coming up with news results. And one strategy that we've been discussing at Local Marketing Source, especially for a focus of my agency this year, is focusing in on public relations. Well, PR content is that content that's going to show right up. So not only is PR content going to help you with your rankings and one of the most effective strategy to get your profiles and your websites to rank, but capturing additional real estate on that SERP through rich media is not that difficult. And capturing real estate from news inserts, and news inserts are highly and very timely. They will get up there real quick. This is a strategy to do that. So keep that in mind. 88% of the search results contain 9 organic results or more. Okay, great. That's not all that relevant. But it does tell us that organic is still a big player, obviously and thankfully. And 56% of the search results have 9 paid search results. This is obviously nothing new. But Google has come out and publicly said it, that they don't use Twitter or Facebook social signals to rank pages. We know this is not new. It's been going on for quite some time. Google just doesn't have access to rank any social signals through Facebook. As a matter of fact, the whole push of Google+, the whole reason for it back in 2009 when Sergey Brin took over, not Sergey, excuse me, Larry, took over the helms of Google again as CEO, the very first thing that he did was implement the culture of social at Google and said to all his employees, your bonuses are going to be paid off of how well we do in the social end of it, how well Google+. And nobody really knew what Google+ really was going to be. Are they really trying to compete against Facebook with their social network? I mean, who's listening to this uses Google+ as their social network? I've got an account. I propagate to it quite frequently, but I don't communicate with anybody, and it's kind of bogus, some of my activity as to what I do on it, because I'm just pushing content out there, but I'm not really engaging that much on Google+. And I think that's the big difference, is Google+ is really one-sided, and it's more collecting information. We've been forced to use it. To have the single sign-on and to have the one sign-on for all Google products, so Google can collect our information. We also know, while Google hasn't come out and said it, we also know that social signals on Google+ do affect its ranking. Well, this to me is telling me that this only further instills that Google is coming out and saying, no, we don't use Facebook social signals to rank pages. Well, okay. You're not saying you're not using Google+, but you happily said that you're not using Twitter or Facebook. So I think that says quite a bit. Moz, formerly called SEO Moz, has just released a survey. Obviously, this is no surprise, as they come out and said that Google Webmaster Tools ranked the #1 tool for SEOs. This is Google's tool alone. It's a tool that it's kind of ironic. It's a tool. It's the best tool for us to use in order to beat that company, right? Well, I mean, we're not trying to beat Google. We never really have trying to beat Google. The whole idea of trying to beat Google in the first place is you're black hat right off the bat. If you can't beat them, join them. Remember that expression? And that's kind of how I've always felt as an SEO, or right from the get-go, is that we give Google what they want. And what they really want is just better businesses that are out there, good, effectively marketed companies. So let's go out and market these companies properly, following fundamental marketing tools. Well, Google Webmaster's tools gives us the information as marketers that are ultimately going to help us. So why bitch on the fact that we're not getting keyword data? Because it's not relevant for marketing purposes. So why give it to us? Why skew us? Why corrupt our industry in a completely different way and allow us to have the information to try and fool them? So Google was smart, and they created Webmaster tools that are the best tools that are out there. Of course Moz is going to get that result back. If you're not using and you're not big into Google Webmaster tools, you should be. Finally, Matt Cutts has come out to explain that older sites won't always keep their current rankings. Wow! What is with Google this week giving us information that we've really known about and believed in for a long time? It's kind of amazing that they're having to repeat some of these things. But they go on to say, and this is apparently and allegedly big news at Google, that they're discussing this stuff. But we know, and this is just confirmation of some of the stuff, and that's why I'm talking about it, is that sites that rank very, very well in the past, and we're not talking about sites that have been penalized by Penguin or Panda or Hummingbird. We're talking about sites that had good, effective SEO marketing from the get-go, and how they tend to lose rankings. Well, if you're not keeping up with the times, you're not keeping up with the technology, for example, you're going to have outdated plugins, you're going to have outdated themes, you're going to have outdated HTML code and CSS. Well, that's just like letting your house fall apart over time. You've got to invest money back into your site on a regular basis. Just like you've got to in the real world. Things break down over time. New technologies tend to come out. If you never fully equipped yourself with fiber optics, well, you're not going to keep up with your neighbors in terms of functionality of speed. Your house then is not going to have the same value to it. You upgrade your plumbing, you upgrade your walls or your insulation. It's the same thing, and it just tends to increase the value. So websites work in that same sense too, that the technology within them has to be constantly upgraded. Every 3 years or so for a local business, you should be relooking at your website and seeing what you're doing. So that's number one. Number two is obviously content. Content that's been on there for 10 years. Yeah, it's still got some aspects of relevancy to it, but then there's other aspects to it that aren't relevant. Things do change. You think of the way the world was 10 years ago in 2004. That was before I moved to the United States. And 10 years ago, the world was very different. Nobody knew what a smartphone was. Just think of how different our world is today with smartphones alone. Nobody knew what iPhone meant or tablet. Over 50% of searches now are on these devices. Before it was just a computer. The whole idea of 2005, going back, most people that are listening to this did not know what Facebook was in 2005. If you're an American, you had no idea, or you were anti-Facebook. You were a MySpace person. The world was very, very different back then. And so when you're talking about certain content and people's minds and social media, nobody understood social media. And we're talking general consumers. I mean, I was leading edge, a techie back then, and I had just gotten on Facebook in 2005. I mean, Facebook was founded in 2004. So keeping information fresh and relevant on your site is very, very important in terms of dating it. And so these are the things, you know, content freshness and updating the technology are definitely relevant factors in ranking your site, in keeping your site up there. So on that note, that's going to come to the conclusion of this week's local marketing update. I'm just going to take a few seconds right now and then come back and answer any questions for LMS students.
Thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week, so if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.